Hi everybody, welcome to another interview. I am Matt Kepnes of nomadicmatt.com, and I'm here with Matt Gross, the former Frugal traveler and current editor at
Bonappetit.com
to talk about his new book, The Turk Who Loved Apples. And so this week's video is talking about his book. So, Matt, thanks for being here.
Oh, it's like to be here.
We're here in my lovely new apartment. Trying to get used to being sedentary a little bit.
Yeah, you have a home base now. That's scary.
It's crazy. Non-nomadic. So tell us a little bit about how this book came about.
Well, this book, The Turk Who Loved Apples, is a sort of summary of all of my adventures around the world in the past 30 years.
Well, and it's only 200 pages?
Oh, it's a good, almost 300 pages.
Almost 300, okay.
10 pages per year.
You really haven't gone that many places.
Yeah, 60 countries, months and years of traveling for the New York Times and on my own, sort of compressed and organized by theme, chapter by chapter.
Yeah, you were the former frugal traveler.
Yeah.
And you got to travel around being frugal and telling other people how to do it.
Yes.
So we were kind of destined to be friends because I do budget, he does budget. And
we're both named Matt.
We're both named Matt.
Both from Massachusetts.
We're both from Massachusetts. Wow, we really are just destined.
Two frugal Yankee Jews wandering the world in search of adventure.
Actually, Matt was like one of my first big breaks when he interviewed me for New York Times back in 2009.
Yeah, I think so.
Early 2010. Yeah, I remember that. You sent me so much traffic, you crashed my website, which is actually a great problem to have.
Power of the New York Times.
Yeah. So your book is about misadventures.
Yeah, it's the one thread that I found that connected all of my travels and trips over the years was that I had a lot of trouble. Got sick, got lost, was alone, scared, poor, naive, and yeah.
As we all are in the beginning when we travel, you make tons of rookie mistakes and you think, oh, why did I do that?
Mm-hmm. And then you make them again.
But yeah.
I should know better. I should know better by now.
When I first went to Thailand in 2005, my friend and I went to go see the Grand Palace. And it's open to visitors. And so we go there around lunchtime and we entered on the wrong side. So the big gate is closed. And this taxi driver comes up and is like, oh, it's lunchtime, it's closed for lunch. And we're like, it's a big site. It doesn't really seem like that would be the case. So we walk to one side and we look, and then walk to the other side and we look, and the gates on the side are closed. So we think, oh, well, maybe he's right.
Yeah.
So we get in the cab, we go see a bunch of temples and everything.
Did you go to the Golden Mount?
We did.
Yeah. Same thing happened to me. Same thing happened to me.
And then we had to go to, to the jewel shop and the tuck shop. But actually, it worked out great because I saw pretty much all of Bangkok's temples in one day. But then we get back, and he drops it off. See, it's open now. And it was the one side we didn't look at, which was the main entrance. I was like, damn, you got suckered.
Yeah, I had the same. I had exactly the same thing happen, and I didn't mind either. Partly because I didn't really care that much about seeing the Grand Palace. Apologies to the Thai people. But also, when I went to the Golden Mount, I found the first skateboarder I'd seen in a year of living in Southeast Asia. This is back in 1997. And I got to skate on his board. And as a skater myself, it was so exciting to see this Thai kid skating. And it totally made it worthwhile.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you fall for one of these little go for a ride scams and you're like, all right, that's great. I just saw 10 temples I wouldn't have seen otherwise. So, about misadventures,
yes,
which we all have plenty of, how did you choose the misadventures to go in the book? I mean, I could write 3 books on mine.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, there's so much stuff that didn't make it in here.
Yeah.
Just because it's repetitive. How many times do you need to hear about me getting sick and exactly what came out of where as a result?
He talks a lot about his...
I don't talk that much. I talk enough that you think that it's a lot.
Oh, yeah, that's true. and the scam, from the Thai scam didn't end up...
No, I mean, there's so many things that have gone wrong so many times that I don't need to include everything. I need to include the problems and the mistakes that meant a lot to me and that I learned from and recovered from.
And made you a better traveler.
Yeah, made me a better traveler, made me more capable of dealing with the mistakes. The mistakes don't stop. That's the thing.
You keep making them. I still make mistakes.
Yeah, it's not like I became a professional travel writer and then became perfect.
Yeah, no. People think that though.
Yeah, they think we have all the answers and we never make a mistake.
Oh, yeah.
But
it's like, you know, sometimes it's, oh Matt, I'm going to, I don't know, Montana. Can you tell me what to do? And it's like, well,
and you gave them advice for South Dakota. Oh my God.
Yeah. And it's like, I've actually never been to Montana.
Montana's great.
I know, I'm going
Yeah.
to
Oh yeah. I want to go back.
Yeah. But yeah, I still make plenty of mistakes.
Yeah.
Mostly relating to like bookings. Like I'll like forget I booked a hotel and then book another hotel. or Matt and I spoke at a conference in April and we were talking about like one of our worst like blunders. And well, I'll let you share yours. But mine was booking a flight from Cairns to Melbourne in Australia, and I just kind of saved all my flight stuff in my email. So I had such a long list, I forgot I booked the flight. So I booked the flight again. So when I checked in, they're like, oh, you know you had 2 reservations? I was like, oh, crap. And because it was one of the budget airlines, I couldn't get a refund. So I lost like $300 because I forgot to write down that I had booked my flight.
It's ridiculous. Mine was just showing up for the right flight on the wrong day. I showed up a day early for a flight from Luang Prabang to Vientiane to Hanoi. And I just did not realize the dates. And I showed that I had a paper ticket, and I got to the check-in desk and I gave them the ticket, and they're like, "Are you sure you want to fly today?" I was like, yeah. And I was actually in Vientiane before I even realized that everybody was confused because I'd gotten on the wrong day.
Oh, so you actually gone on like a flight already?
Yeah, I flew one of the legs before I realized that I was flying on the wrong day, and I got to Vientiane and tried to check in for the flight to Hanoi, and they were like, "You're a day early." But I flew standby and waited until the last minute, and someone didn't show up, and I got a seat, and everything worked out. I mean, this is the key to making mistakes, is not to stress out about them, to just see what happens. Tuk-tuk drivers are going to try and scam you, just see what happens.
Mistakes will happen on the road. Unfortunate things will happen, but you learn, okay, whatever. Like, people are always like, it's nice to travel with you because you don't get stressed out about it. I'm like, you know what? Shit will happen.
Yeah.
And we're on YouTube, so I can say that. So what's your favorite mistake that you put in the book?
I mean, the toughest one, the one that I really liked talking about in here, was being alone. Because most of us travelers at one point or another are going to be on our own.
Yeah.
Whether we set off on trips by ourselves, or we go off with people and they go their separate ways and we go our separate ways. At some point you're going to be alone, and it's a difficult thing to deal with, no matter how many times it's happened to you. Whether you use that loneliness to try and make new friends, or whether you sort of accept it and learn to just be by yourself and not crave the company of other people.
You get good at being by yourself, like you become your own best friend. If you can't make yourself entertained, you're not going to be able to entertain others. But
if you can't live in your own head, you're not going to do too well out in the world.
Yeah, and you're going to have a really difficult time traveling, because there are going to be times where you don't find sort of a companion on the road and you're in a couple of cities by yourself. And you get out on the road and you're like, oh, I'm traveling alone, this is going to be excellent, I'm going to have so much fun. And then you realize, well, crap, I'm alone.
Then you realize I haven't spoken to anyone in 3 days, except for like, Pidgin Bahasa Indonesia.
Yeah. And you think, okay, I
get some
do something
fried
about
rice.
That. And so in a way, like that loneliness, well, it's not so much loneliness, but that being alone, solitude makes you more social, because you have to break out of your shell and actually meet other people. It's sink or swim. Yeah. I mean, there are days where I just want to be alone, where I'm content reading my book. I don't want to meet the 80th, 1000th person. There's not even a number, I'm just making it up, who's going to ask me, so where have you been? Yeah. Where are you going? What are you doing? It's like, I just really want to read my book. But yeah, that loneliness does really kind of make you a better traveler. That solitude. So, speaking of people, that's a good segue. travel is really about the people. Your book features a lot of people you meet along the way, who you befriend and teach you about the world. Who is the most interesting, coolest person you've met? One person that's really had like a big impact on you.
In Bucharest, Romania, I met a guy named Horia Diaconescu. Met him through couch surfing, and the idea was just to hang out, get a beer, and talk. And we wound up hanging out together for several days, and he was sort of exactly like me in his sense of how he wanted to explore cities. So we just walked all over Bucharest looking for cool buildings, finding neat bars that nobody knew about, eating together, and just talking. He was a really smart guy, spoke like great French, he was a computer programmer, I think he was working for Microsoft, just like really brilliant, multi-talented guy. And we had a great several days together, and then we parted ways and I went off on my travels. But he wanted to travel as well, and so he saved money and he got a scholarship to study in Indonesia on Lake Java. And so like a few years later, a trip took me to Java, and I got to see him there. And he's one of these great guys who is not a professional traveler like us. He does it because he loves it.
Well, I do it because I love it too. I hope that's why you do it.
Right, but he's not doing it for work. Yeah. He's doing it because he just wants to explore the world. And I love the idea that I'm going to be able to see him in all of these different countries and all these different settings. And like, that's inspiring. I mean, when I meet writers like us who travel for work, it's one thing. But when I meet people who just do it out of pure love of travel, of love of exploring the strange nooks and crannies of the world, like that's absolutely inspiring.
I would agree, and you know, it's great when you like meet someone in one place in one time, and then you like meet them in several locations, and it's sort of like, you know, you're on your journey and they're on their journey, but your journeys are connected because you just keep coming back together and together.
And your approach to exploration sort of dovetails really well.
It's great to meet those people. So the book, what's a mistake you made in the book that you really like, you wrote into the book to show people, here's what you shouldn't do?
What should you not do?
You could give one piece of advice to someone. It's like, don't do this.
Don't sleep with Cambodian prostitutes or any other kind of prostitutes.
That's definitely something you should not do.
That's what you should read the book for, really.
We do not condone sex tourism here.
No, bad thing to do.
Okay, so what's another?
You want me to recite every mistake I made in there?
No, but what's something like, you're the former frugal traveler, I talk about budget travel. What's a money tip that like you made like a mistake where you just wasted a ton of money that in retrospect realized if you were just a little smarter about it, you wouldn't have made this mistake?
Oh man, well I did this road trip as the frugal traveler in 2007 from New York to Seattle, sort of zigzagging my way across the country, 12,000 miles. And the Times bought me a car to do that. I mean, I bought the car and I expensed it, and the idea was I would get to Seattle and then sell the car. So, being the frugal traveler, I wanted to find something very cheap. And so I bought a 1989 Volvo station wagon for about, I think, $1,600.
No, that's pretty cheap.
And, you know, and I drove it all summer long, and I sold it in Seattle for $1,800. Seems like I made a profit. Except that along the way, I spent about $4,300 fixing it, replacing the transmission, getting leaks fixed, getting the rear bumper welded back on after it fell off on the Mexican border. Okay. And I think if I'd spent more money on the car initially, I would not have lost more than $4,000 in expenses. I mean, if I'd spent $3,000 on a car instead of $1,600, I could have avoided so much heartache.
You know, I always make the point that it's good to be frugal, it's good to be, you know, a budget traveler, but that doesn't mean to be super cheap.
Yeah.
Because sometimes spending a little more saves you headaches and money in the long run. You know, you have to look for value.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know, it's not always like, well, this flight is $50 cheaper, right? well, maybe $50 cheaper, but it's on a really crappy airline.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna fly, it might be better to spend the extra $50 and actually enjoy your experience.
Although, crappy experiences make for good stories.
They do.
That's the trade-off. Do you want to spend more and be comfortable and not have a story, or do you want to spend less, be miserable, and have great stories to tell all your friends?
But you don't want to be miserable all the time. So after you have that good story, where all right, so I was on this crappy airline 3 times, maybe the 4th time you spend that extra $50.
You know, another one of the mistakes I made again and again is taking the bus from Saigon to Phnom Penh. I've done it like 3 times. I've hated it every time, but I keep doing it because it's like $3.
Yeah, I do that all the time too, where it's like, man, I hate this, but it's cheap, so I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
Like early morning flights, I don't do well in the morning, yet I still constantly book 7 a.m. flights. I have no idea why. I make myself get up so early, but it's cheap. All right, so we complain about this all day. Your book, The Turkey Loves Apples. What do you want the reader to get out of it?
I mean, it's a series, it's a book about mistakes that I've made, which I hope shows the ways that I love travel. But I want readers to finish this book and be more capable of making decisions for themselves. I mean, I was the Frugal traveler, I'm a travel expert, but I don't want people to just take my word for it. I want people to go out, make their own mistakes, learn from them, maybe in different ways than I did, and come out the other end more independent, less reliant on people like you and me to tell them where to go and what to do. Because that kind of independence is like the key to great travel.
True, true. All right, well, thank you for being here. And The Turkey Loved Apples, I read it. It's a good book. I recommend it. And I'm not saying that just because he's sitting here right next to me, and it's actually really good. So, Matt, thank you. Where can we find you online?
Go check out bonappetit.com to see my day job, and check out facebook.com/The Turk Who Loved Apples for all of your up-to-date Turk Who Loved Apples news.
And on Twitter?
World Matt World on Twitter.
All right. All right. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
All right. And until next time, I'll see you next Wednesday because I post videos on my YouTube channel every Wednesday, unless I get delayed, which means it will probably go up on Thursday. So until sometime next week. See you later.